And Suzette, I guess I don't have to message them if everyone's ready. Do you want me just to admit them all?
Yes, please.
All right, I'm gonna admit everyone into the session. Good luck.
All right, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes a todos. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And I hope you all are doing well this Friday, right before the weekend. And we're glad that you have been able to join the Triton Leaders Conference and this particular session. My name is Edgar Beas, and I will be your moderator today. We have a wonderful panel with us, and we will be introducing themselves. We will do introductions in just a little bit. I do want to say really quickly that I would like to invite all of you that are here joining us to bring yourself into the space as you can, and to be, in this space, paying attention to the important advice and the important information that will be shared today in this session. Some housekeeping items are in the screen right now, so please mute your mic unless you're speaking. If you would like to ask a question, you can use the Q&A feature and use the raise your hand feature to be called on during Q&A session. We would like you to use the Q&A feature in this event hub page, where you can ask the questions that you like the panelists to answer during the Q&A session that we're going to have. And we'd like you to invite you to abide by the UC San Diego Principles of Community. The goals of the principles include providing fair treatment for faculty, staff, and students, encouraging a climate of fairness, cooperation, and professionalism, fostering inclusiveness, respect, and welcoming environment, promoting collaborative attitudes and actions. And with this, what we would like to do at this moment, if there's nothing else that we need to go through, we would like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, give us about 1 to 2 minutes of remarks, and then we'll move on. I have the pleasure of introducing our first panelist, and her name is Lisa Ordonez, and she's the Dean of the Rady School of Management at UC San Diego. Lisa, please go ahead.
Thank you. Welcome all. I have been with Rady now just over 17 months, but I am no stranger to the UC. I actually grew up in Central California and got all 3 degrees at UC Berkeley. I then spent 25 years at the University of Arizona, where I was a faculty member of management in the Eller School of Management, became the Vice Dean, which is the #2 dean there. And now I am proud to represent this incredible group at this incredible university at this very unusual time. But so happy to be here and hope that you all get something valuable out of this session today. Edgar, I think you're on mute. The phrase of 2020, 2021.
Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Dr. Ordonez. And next up is Liz Ramirez, and she's the Director of Philanthropic Operations for Promises to Kids.
Hi, everyone. Buenas tardes. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am also a proud alumni, 09. But let me tell you, I struggled my first year at UCSD, and I'm really excited to be here and talk about mentorship, because mentorship and community building is really what helped me through, especially that first year at UCSD, where imposter syndrome hit really hard and I felt like I didn't belong. I really relied on my community to give me that strength, that courage, and to help me believe that I do belong here. So I'm really excited to share a little bit about the work that I do as far as mentorship and the mentorship program that I oversee, but also my personal story as an alumni. And if you get anything out of this session is that, you can do it, you're in the right place, si se puede, and you're not alone. You have a big network of alumni that are here that want to see you succeed. And so thank you for being here today, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Lise. Next up is Benoni Pantoja, and he is the Chief Operations Officer for Dreamcatcher program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this panel. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Dreamcatcher program. My background is in education. Actually, I started there at UCSD, graduated in '99. Whoop, whoop. So dating myself a little bit, but it's all good. So yes, my trade and training has been in education primarily. So I was a teacher, assistant principal, vice president of schools, jumped into Dreamcatcher, and then I'll also do some ed tech stuff. So I'm in a place where I believe opportunities are there, and the connections and networks are essential to that. But also that we're here for each other to support one another. And I got a lot of stories as well. So I share the sentiments of struggling a little bit there, but building a great network of folks that helped me through at UCSD and beyond. So pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Benoni. And next up is Juliana Alvarado, and she is a fourth-year student with us and at UC San Diego, and she's also part of the Spaces office with the SIGE as a SIGE coordinator. Juliana.
Yeah, hi everyone. Like Edgar said, I am a current student here at UCSD. I'm from Marshall College and I'm studying human biology with a minor in global health. And I do serve as part of the Mecha board, which is Movimiento Estudiantil por Chicanx por Activismo, sorry about that. And as I work for Mecha, I also work for Spaces, which is also a center here on campus.
Thank you, Juliana. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and get our session started. And but before we jump into our first topic here, I would like to encourage everyone as we're going through the session to jot down your questions, ask them in the chat through Cvent Hub. And be engaged. We really want this space to be interactive, engaged, and have a meaningful conversation back and forth. I'm here to potentially moderate a small piece of it and potentially just provide a little direction here, but I want this to be driven by the questions and the thoughts and all the different things that you have in your mind that you would like to ask our panelists. Okay, so I really encourage you to drive this conversation as well. Awesome. So what we would like to start with and the first topic that I want to bring up to the table is this concept of mentorship, and because of our session, how much it focuses on finding a mentor, right? When we think of mentorship, we think of accompaniment, we think of guidance, right? A guidance that influences lives and situations and experiences. So the first question for our panel is, how does one go about finding a suitable mentor? Right? That is often a question that students ask themselves or anybody who is looking for a mentor. And what is essential to making sure that students get the most out of a mentorship relationship? And anybody can go ahead and start if you have a thought.
I'll go ahead and start. There's so many things to be said here. First of all, let me just encourage you that there's no single mentor. I had many mentors, and many of the mentors I had didn't necessarily look like me. Many of them were Caucasian men. So find someone that's going to support you and whatever you do, but realize that while you're getting something out of it, the mentor also needs to get something out of it, in the sense that they do it because they want to feel like they're contributing and they see something in you that's valuable. So think about the investment return on investment. So making sure you communicate with them, telling them your successes, and staying connected. And while you might have one primary mentor, you can also think of what I've heard people say is more of a kind of a board, a group of people that you look to for advice and for support. So again, it doesn't have to be one single person, but keeping those networks and remembering to keep those even as you move on in your career. So many times I've heard of new opportunities and get new information because of people that I've stayed connected with. So it's a lot of work. If you have to, keep an actual list of names to remember, to reach out by phone, by email, by LinkedIn. There's so many different ways, but I encourage you to create those networks. And as the expression you may have heard before is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, I'll tell you that it's both. Yes, it's important for you who are students to do all you can to learn, those who are alums to keep learning, that is lifelong learning, but it is also keeping those networks, and they're so important.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think finding a mentor, it's in spaces that you want to be, right? So for me, I was lucky enough to receive work study while I was at UC San Diego, and I got linked up. I ended up getting my master's in school counseling. I wanted to be a school counselor, so I started doing outreach at high schools, trying to get students prepared with their, A through Gs and requirements for college, and it was through that I met a lot of folks that were already in the industry that I wanted to be in. And so really it was me connecting with them and saying, hey, can we meet up sometime? I'd love to pick your brain. I'd love to learn more about how you got to where you're at right now. And I remember seeing one particular mentor. I love the way that he connected with families. He was a financial aid counselor at the community college. And I was like, I want to be like him when I grow up. And so I went up to him and I told him that. And I'm like, you are amazing with families. You are such an inspiration. I want to be like you when I grow up. Like, can we connect? And actually, I still have a relationship with him. And it's really funny because we had coffee before COVID, and we were just talking, and I was telling him, I'm like, oh yeah, like I used to see you, like I want to just be like him when I grow up. And he's like, well, now you're one of my peers. But it turned into a great relationship, and really it was getting over that hump of being scared of asking and just going for it and asking and putting yourself out there and connecting with folks, because like Dean mentioned, people want to connect, right? People want to make meaningful relationships. And so, I encourage you to go out there to build those relationships, and then also come prepared. So once you reach out to a mentor, come prepared with what you want to get out of the mentorship relationship. So make sure that you do your research ahead of time. Make sure that you have a plan, that you have your SMART goals in mind, so that you come to the meeting prepared, so that it's a fruitful relationship for both, right? You don't just want to come to a mentor and have them tell you go from step A to Z, but really you want to already come prepared and with questions, with things that you want, tangible things that you can achieve together. Maybe it's reviewing a resume, or maybe it's reviewing a cover letter, or getting feedback on something. So that's the advice I can give you, is go ahead and ask and come prepared.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what everyone's saying, but also that you want to find individuals that are aligned to your goals, your values, your purpose, but also that mentorships, they come in different shapes and sizes, meaning it's not just people. Sometimes you can listen to podcasts, you can get a book, you can watch a documentary, and these mentor you in a way to guide you to whatever path you want to go. Like Liz was sharing, it's about relationships. So, and in relationships, it's a two-way thing, and figuring out how that you can also help the individual, in what ways you can contribute and bring your strength to the table, because each of you provide strength to the relationship, and build that relationship. So I echo what everyone is saying, but you got to pursue them for sure.
I can also go ahead and answer the question. my mentorship experiences have currently only been for like undergrad, like handling how undergrad has been. And I also like to like agree with what has been said on being able to be vulnerable with your mentor. I feel like if you are able to like share things with them, it might take a while. I know for me, like it took like maybe like 5 meetings for me to finally like be opening up about struggles, just because I felt like it was like a random person that I didn't know. So then once I was able to build a relationship with them, it really allowed them to like help me and understand what I was like going through during undergrad. And I can definitely say that it's been great to have not only one but multiple mentors, because I feel like everyone has different experiences that they can share some advice from. So I would definitely encourage people to like seek multiple mentors and just be allow themselves to be vulnerable with them.
Thank you everyone for that. So in order to continue covering the basis, right? We're talking about mentorship. We're talking about the two-way relationship between a mentee, mentor and a mentee, right? And Dr. Ordonez mentioned that. I want to go with Liz, with something that Liz mentioned in her remarks, and those were that you know, what makes a good mentee, right? What is it that a mentee needs to do to be able to be prepared for a for an interaction, right? For interaction or this relationship whenever you're meeting with your mentors. So I would like to maybe and Juliana, you also touched on this, but I'd like to further the conversation into this particular point to cover the basis on oftentimes we ask ourselves, what do we need to do to be a good mentee? And I would just like to put it out there for everyone to give any thoughts. And we don't have to go in order, so anybody can go in.
I would say be humble. I think come with an open mind, because we all can learn from each other. And if you're specifically going in the mindset of being a mentee, is be humble and be someone that can also provide support to that relationship. Regardless, like I mentioned before, regardless, bring your strength to the relationship. Be hungry to learn. So hungry, humble, and then also optimistic. Try to have that positive mindset that, hey, I'm going to grow and develop this relationship. So that would be my 2 little cents.
I'll add to that, be consistent. One of the things that I learned with my mentor is that we scheduled a time. So every 3 weeks we would meet at the same time. We established a relationship during COVID. So I was in charge of setting up the Zoom link. I was always there, logged on beforehand. And like I mentioned, I came prepared with questions. And sometimes I would email her ahead of time. Hey, just so you know, this is what's on my brain today. This is what I want to discuss, to also allow her to think about the topics. So be again prepared and be consistent. Communicate. They're there and they're open and they're giving of their time. So it's important to be respectful of their time, to communicate, and then to ask, right? What does a good time look like for you, right? How often are you open to meeting as well? Because you also want to make sure that you're open with your mentor.
Juliana, do you want to go?
Oh, you can go.
Well, I'll just add something. I think this is great advice, and you guys sound like wonderful mentees. I will sometimes, I know it sounds, it's not really mean, but I'll give them a test. I'll give them a task and see what they do with it. So I might mention I've mentored many people to get PhDs in business, and there's an organization called the PhD Project. And it is to increase diverse individuals in PhD programs. And I'll mention it and then I'll see what happens. And if the student goes and investigates and comes back, oh, I read the website and I've already applied for the conference thing, you know, that tells me this person, it doesn't mean that they have to do, I looked at it, but then I found this other thing because of that, you know, whatever but I saw that they actually used some of my advice and reflected upon it. And I know that person is worth my time, my investment, because I don't have that much time. But I think your point about being consistent, and please realize if you're going to pick a mentor, they are very busy people too. So please do not cancel unless absolutely necessary, or be on time, be early. So do what you can for them to feel like, again, this is a valuable relationship for them as well.
I can also add on how they were saying that consistency is very key in like building that relationship with a mentor. I know one of my mentors and we would meet like every other week, and that was really helpful for me just to like get to know the person first. And I come from like a family who wants to like only share like things within the family. Like my parents taught me, don't go telling other people your problems, like just come to me. But that was very hard as a first generation student, since what I was experiencing in college wasn't something they knew of or something they've gone through. So I think the fact that I was able to meet with my mentor like every other week, like I was knowing that they were also first generation, and that they also felt that if they told their parents would be like, no, it's just school, like it's like those are just little challenges. But um it was helpful to like know that they were first generation, and I don't think I would have known that if I wasn't meeting them as consistently. And it just helped me like slowly open up and be able to share like the struggle. So I would also suggest like being consistent. And then it also helps with communication. Like at first I was scared to like even like say, oh, like I have a midterm, like I think we need to switch the schedule. But then I realized I'm a student, they're a student. We both like know that school like is a big priority. So we were able to like communicate well with that.
Thank you, everyone. And before I move on, please utilize the chat. We'd like you to ask questions as well. I want to move a little bit, to and in connection to, I think something that Liz mentioned in the first question, and that was, the courage that it took for her to actually go in and be able to ask, right, and be able to establish that relationship of mentorship. And I want to, sort of connect that to the goal of this session, which is also to make sure that the student and alumni attendees have that we can discuss the challenges that anyone can encounter as they're trying to launch their career, right? So with that in mind, we know that certain beliefs and attitudes can sometimes shape, and the mindset of someone can shape, our trajectory and the actions that we take, and in connection to mentorship potentially, but also just in general career advice. So the question is, what are certain cultural mindsets that you think Latinx students may have that will influence their professional growth, whether that is when they're exploring what career they're going to go into or beyond, right? Once they have a job that they like, a career that they are in, but then there are, certain challenges that come with these kinds of mindsets that and these beliefs and attitudes that Latinx individuals can have. So was that question clear? Anybody has any thoughts?
I can piggyback off of what Juliana was talking about earlier. I'm first generation, coming from a low income background. And I mentioned my first year that I really struggled at the university. And I think what the biggest challenge was that I didn't ask for help, right? I didn't even tell my mom or my dad. I didn't want to worry them because I was already not living at home. I already knew that they were worried about me. And so I kept things to myself. And I really struggled my first year, but I quickly realized that keeping things to myself, there was no way I was going to be successful. You know, I needed a community, I needed support system, I needed to reach out to mentors, and that's how I got connected with OASES, and OASES, you know, really helped me build a sense of community in the university, helped me not only graduate, but already those relationships helped me secure a full-time job before I even graduated. So I think that that's one of the things sometimes, you know, being Latinx, we're afraid to ask for help, right? As far as my case too, I wanted to prove people wrong. I wanted to prove people that I could do it and I could do it on myself, you know, but it's not about that. It's about, you know, we really need to build that relationship and build community with other folks, especially being first generation. You know, we don't know what we don't know, right? And it's so important to build those connections with other folks that have more life experience or just experience with other professionals. And so I encourage, you know, all of us to step out of our comfort zone and really ask for support.
Hey, Edgar, can we put up that slide?
Yes, absolutely.
Segue. So I'm a first gen as well. Came from Central California, Fresno, and never saw UCSD. Actually visited. It was a pamphlet back in the days. So I was like, I'm there, I'm going. And throughout my life experiences, these are some little 3 nuggets here with a bunch of little sprinkles on it that I believe address the question. One is having a mindset. It's having a growth mindset, figuring out what is your purpose, what do you want to do, and that takes a lot of self-exploration. I know with the program that I'm with now, Dreamcatcher, we have this thing called MAP. It's, you know, you create mental mindset, you start asking yourself the right questions, you create a plan of action, a purpose, and then an execution strategy as you're tapping into your internal GPS. Each of us has something inside, and then within that, you have to tap in and figure out, okay, where do I want to go? Who am I? And how do I get there? I know that my mindset before was just, I got to work hard. I just got to work hard. I got to work hard. I got to work hard. Because that was ingrained in me, which I think is, it's important. But one of my mentors once told me that there's a lot of hardworking people who are still struggling, and that you have to think beyond the bubble of just working hard. It's creating opportunities. And I had a negative perspective even on finances and money, which is weird. But that was something that I had to kind of overcome in my mindset. Skill set. So skill set is really looking at the skills that are needed specifically for the industry or the jobs that you're trying to do. Research the careers and qualifications. If you go to LinkedIn and you're like, hey, I want a job in this specific field, you got to see what qualifications do they want and start building that skill set around it, and building and connecting with people who have those sets so they can help you develop those as well. I mentioned earlier, you know, get a little H2O, be hungry, humble, and optimistic. But also with skill set, I have this thing called the 5 C's, is just be confident, figure out what you need to do, competent, know what you need to do, be clear as far as, you know, coming up with the plan, be creative, have fun through it, and then collaborate, meet, network. And then the last one is create the set. It's opportunities not going to come to you. You have to go out and use your networks, use your mentorships, use your internships. We gained, and I know I gained a lot of cultural and social capital at UCSD when I was there, and the people that I met, and they introduced me to other people, and then the friends that I met, and then keeping in connection and contacts with them and connecting with their friends, regardless of their background as well. I was surprised, you know, that my mentorships, I think, Dr. Ordonez, she mentioned that some mentors, you know, or some older white men, and it's okay. And I think that was really something that I had to wrestle with as well. But you learn from a lot of different people, and when you tap into people's heart and again their values and what they want to accomplish, then you align yourself there. so that you can have that mindset, skill set, and create the set. So those are my 2 cents.
I have to add one story here. Speaking of people with a heart, I remember at Berkeley when I was an undergrad, I had access to different programs to support Latinx students, although we didn't say Latinx back then. And I remember talking to one of my much older Caucasian professors, and I said, I feel kind of bad because I have access to these programs that other students don't. And he looks at me very seriously and says, get over yourself. Take whatever help you can get and get over yourself. And I was just like, and he was right, because, and I'll just back up with research. Research shows, I mean, Liz, your comments were just dead on. Research shows that everyone needs help, regardless. I mean, we have this title, it's, for Latinx, Chicanx people, this is for all of us, anyone, but everybody needs help. And as it turns out, because the majority of people in many organizations are Caucasian men or men, you tend to reach out to people who look and think like you. And in that case, many of the Caucasian men in organizations are getting support. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a natural thing. So we may have to be a little bit extra in terms of reaching out and accepting help, but you're absolutely right. We have to accept help. We don't have to do it all yourself. And I fell into that trap as an assistant professor. I was terrified that people would think I couldn't do this on my own, and I had to prove them that I could. And it wasn't until I started allowing people to help me is when I started succeeding. So absolutely take every advantage you can, because everyone else is as well.
As a current 4th year, I feel like a lot of like the struggles of like career searching is definitely like coming at me all at once right now. Because I feel like when I was starting undergrad, like I was supposed to follow all these steps into getting a career, and I couldn't follow those steps because undergrad was very hard for me. It still is very hard for me. So like I was feeling like I wasn't going in a certain path because other people were like, let's say studying for the MCAT, like I hadn't even started. So I think one thing I've learned is that everyone has their own path. And I think that's important to know. Like I am pre-med. So when I was hearing like other medical student stories, like I was amazed how different their journeys were. And it made me realize that my journey is going to be different, and that is okay. And it did take me a while to be okay with that. I'm still like in the pre-med track, even though I'm not on the ideal track. I'm still trying to go through it. And I also agree on like letting your mentors help you all the way through your journey. I know I was afraid to even ask for help with my professors, and right now one of my professors has been the best help. Would have never thought I would be talking to my professor like I am right now, and they've provided resource after resource. So I would definitely also encourage reaching out to all your mentors, your professors, your supervisors, anyone. Like I promise they will help you.
Great, great advice from everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, we're starting to get some questions. I'm excited. The first question I have here, maybe have a couple of you answer this, and then we'll move on to another question that came up in the chat as well. But the first question was sent through the Cvent Hub, and that is, what are the most common mistakes made by first generational university students? There were a few things mentioned, but I think we can add some more.
Well, I'll just kind of reiterate the one theme I heard, which was absolutely true for me. By the way, this may be true for many of you. I call myself a double first generation. My parents didn't even go to high school. So believe me, there was nobody supporting me. So it is knowing that there is someone out there that, and information out there, and expecting to get help. Many of, I know that I, for whatever reason, didn't feel that I was worthy or didn't feel that they had enough time, but expect that when you ask questions, you will get help and you will get answers, and look for that, and kind of accept that help.
Here's one big mistake. I have very little regrets, but this is one of them, is I didn't read the fine line on one of my loans. And that to me came back and it bit me in the butt. Sometimes it's now at my ankle, but it's it's something that I wish, if I can go back in time, this was a mistake. I wish I asked more questions and talked to different people outside of just the financial aid office. Sometimes I assume that they're the all-knowing, which there are, some of them are. So I don't want to, please don't misinterpret that, but get more than one form of advice, feedback financially when it comes to kind of loans. If you're going to pursue, I got my master's as well. And I made sure that I was looking back and checking and dotting my I's, crossing my T's. So that was one mistake, is just not knowing. It's that social culture capital that you don't know. And you want to make sure you surround yourself with individuals regardless of where they're at, and ask a lot of questions. So that's one of many.
Thank you. Okay. Made me think of navigating the spaces and the different resources, right, Benoni? With your thought too. Just trying to learn and getting people that could also guide you through that in the institution that you're attending, or the place that you're at, right? Someone who can guide you through the different ins and outs of how and where to do things. There's another question from someone in the chat here. And that is, do y'all have any advice on how to actually use your network, social capital, to help you in your career, like getting internship and connections? And then there's a follow-up to that. It says, doesn't come naturally, or are there any steps you can take to facilitate that?
I can go. So I'm now a fundraiser, but I didn't land as a fundraiser. I mentioned earlier that I went to school to be a school counselor, and now I'm a nonprofit leader. But really, I got to where I got because of building those connections, and it wasn't it just came naturally to me, and I'm still doing it to this day. Just yesterday, I reached out to someone and I'm like, hey, do you want to have a virtual cafecito? Let's meet up. Let's talk a little bit about your role. I'd love to share some ideas. And so I think that's something that's ongoing, is making connections, just asking people about what questions, what they do. And why they love the place that they work, right? And those connections have really helped me along with my career. Actually, the different positions that I've had throughout my career, mainly all came from networking. It came from folks even reaching out because they knew I knew someone, or I got referred to a job from someone else. So yeah, I do encourage it. It comes, there's no science. It's just having that courage to reach out to folks and to ask questions.
Yeah, I would add to that as well, that is find the networks you want to enter. You're going to have to research them. I know most of my career has been in the education field, but I'm into the entrepreneur space at this time as well. But the chambers of commerce, I started attending chambers of commerce meetings here in North County, San Diego, where I live. They have this thing called the Innovate 78, the 78 corridor, where different industries and organizations come together. So I get to meet people. at conferences. I'm naturally an extrovert, so I think it comes easier to me just to go out and try to connect and meet people. But it's doing the research and figuring out where these opportunities are, and then setting yourself up to go to them and ask questions. Like Liz was saying, just come with questions and be ready to connect, but offer as well. So.
Anybody else want to add anything?
I can go. I haven't had too many like networking experiences since like I've only done so little in my undergrad, but I think one thing I did notice was that even though it did come a little natural to me, I think it came natural because I was in spaces that I really enjoyed. And also like bringing two of your worlds together, I feel like that helps. Like for example, like I did mention, I am like in the pre-med track. So I was going to these organizations that did revolve medical field like resources. And then I was also involved in like social work. And when I started my job in social work, I found that people there too were also pursuing like the pre-med stuff and medical and healthcare. So like just the fact that we were all in the social care and in the pre-med care, like I feel like that allowed us to relate on more things and just talk to one another and just be able to build connections from there. So like what I'm trying to come forward is like you might go to your hobby and then you find people there and they actually like will help you build your career because they do other things as well. I don't know if that makes sense, but just like I feel like just doing like going out there and like meeting new people also helps just um like build your confidence in talking to people as well because I'm an introvert, so for me I struggle sometimes to like talk to people. So I think when I started like putting myself out there more and like just talking to people, that also helped me as well.
Yeah, good for you, because it is hard. I am an introvert too. People don't believe it, but I am. But it takes many years of practice to get better at this. The one thing I will add, just kind of changing the concepts a little bit, is to remember to, and I saw on the one slide the growth mindset. Always be learning and think about future degrees as well. So think about UCSD. There's so many programs at Rady, not to shamelessly plug, but I will anyway. We have 4 master's degrees, MBAs, weekend evening programs, and always having those degrees are very helpful. And let me tell you one thing that is kind of a well-kept secret. You don't pay for a PhD. You may pay for a professional degree, but a PhD is free. Now, they will give you a stipend. It's not a lot of money and it's tough sometimes to make it. But if you ever think, gosh, I could like the life of a professor and do research and teach, that's where, please reach out to me anytime. Even if it's not in business, I can connect you with the people, because that is a field that I did not know I was going to get a PhD till I was practically in a PhD program. It's just not a path that I even heard of. I didn't know that this is the life I would have. And I didn't know that it would be free. So think about at some point, maybe that's in your path as well.
Thank you everyone for your insights. And we have another question in the chat as well. And it's coming from Nadia May, and that is, what were or are your favorite resources at UC San Diego that really helped you?
I mentioned earlier that Oasis to me was a space that really, really helped me. And actually just this past week, I got Facebook memories from different folks in Oasis that they were checking up on me. And I got different messages saying, hey, Liz, how was your day? How were your finals? How was the end of your quarter? And that to me was just a big sense of community. So Oasis was by far the biggest support network for me. As well as through, going to the Career Center and getting a job through work study. There was a big support network because I, connected with other folks from UC San Diego that were also in interest in education, and then with other professionals in the field. And so that was very useful because I already had internships lined up before even starting my master's program. So for me, those two were my saving grace.
I would echo Oasis. Was also part of the Summer Bridge program that came out of Oasis. So that helped out with another layer of support there. The Cross Culture Center, there was a lot of different organizations that did things. Was part of Metcha for a little bit as well. Met some people there that I'm still friends with now and connect. The Career Center, I think when I was there, it was, I forgot the name of the building, but it wasn't as elaborate with computers. They would like post jobs up and apartments and everything available on a little cork board at the bottom there. So that was helpful because my first job was at Ocean View Terrace. I was like, man, I need a job. I don't have any money. So I worked at the cafeteria for a quarter. And then from there, I worked as an academic transition counselor as well. So I started moving around. So that Career Center was very helpful. I think the organizations, getting involved with different clubs, not just, cultural clubs, but athletic clubs or whatever it may be, because you start building networks. I have great friends to this day that I met at REMAC. I think it was the first year it opened up, and we'd go work out together and hang out. And I played basketball. Well, I think I played basketball. I used to call myself Chiquito O'Neal. I was horrible. I was horrible at basketball, but played flag football. I played Frisbee. I tried it all, racquetball, you name it, as I try to explore my own, I guess, I don't want to say biases, but my own perception of who I'm supposed to be and say, who can I be? And then really started to just try different things out. So I would say join a club that you might have an interest in. Maybe you don't have an interest. You just might find somebody there. Those relationships I have till this day, just from people that I met through different clubs and organizations on campus.
I also love Oasis. I go to their tutoring sessions all the time. And like the people there are just so nice. Like I feel like they help you in like the right ways. And they've also used like Metcha. I've gotten like great opportunities from Metcha. I've met some like great friends there too. And then right now, my current job at Spaces. Spaces is a very tiny center, but I feel like the programs that we put on there and events are also helpful for everyone. Spaces likes to collaborate with a bunch of SAC orgs, and SAC is Student for Affirmative Action Committees. So we just like to help the communities that are underrepresented. And I think even just for like basic needs, Spaces helps as well. Like I know we provide, when we were like open to the public, we would provide like free printing and just like other self-care needs there as well. And also the Career Services Center, before like I would be hesitant to go because I heard like bad things about the advisors, but I actually found some of them very helpful. So I would just like reach out to like all of them and see what works for you.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, there's a great conversation happening also in the chat. So there's so many different thoughts and great encouraging information. But there was something that Araceli Abanilla asked, and I want to give an opportunity to our panelists to expand because there have been some thoughts already in the chat, but I want you to answer the question. And that is, do you have any advice on how to encourage your students and mentees to keep up this relationship with their mentors?
I'm trying to understand the question. Is this how we encourage everyone to be proactive mentees?
Proactive mentees, as she elaborated on that question, Dr. Ordonez, she mentioned how there are sometimes that students don't show up for meetings and never reply to emails, and it's just advice on how to encourage the students to maintain that engaged relationship with their mentors.
That's interesting, and I wonder if part of it is those who don't do that aren't realizing that their own worth and their mentor's worth. So that this is a relationship, and Liz even pointed out being consistent. That it's really important to make sure that you do follow through, and their time is valuable to remember that, but also realize that they're not doing this because they have to. There are times there are structured programs, but even then those individuals sign up to be part of it. So more of taking, respect that relationship, respect that, and maybe sometimes it is the hierarchy. I have sometimes a harder time with, when I was younger, with older individuals, and again, feeling apologetic for taking their time. Don't assume that. Actually, one of my students, he keeps up with people, he texts me or emails, but he writes a newsletter, I kid you not, about his life every quarter and sends it to all of his mentees. He really takes a very proactive approach to communicating and keeping up. And that way he puts a little time in, but then he sends it to all of his mentors. And you want to invest in someone who's that proactive. So I just would encourage you all to realize that this is part of, and I always say all these extra things as you're a student, or maybe even as after you've graduated, these aren't extra. The workshops and the training and these programs, they are part of education and what we get with a face-to-face, a large organization like UCSD.
Yeah, I think it comes down, just echoing there, is just respecting individuals and their time. We're all people, we're all human. We need to respect and value that, because just as you're trying to build bridges, you can burn a couple along the way as well, and that's not good. So that's a reality, and I think people have to realize that, taking personal responsibility for their actions, but also respecting those that are, giving their time or sharing their wisdom and information. In a lot of cultures, at least in mine, is you got to respect your elders and respect those around you, and respect all people. My dad taught me to respect those that are millionaires or those that don't even have a home. You treat them all the same, and you do that, and you value them that way. So don't burn bridges, because you will if you keep pushing people off in that way. So it sends a message. It does.
Any other thoughts?
Can I
Any
address?
other? No, go ahead.
That the previous speaker said that I think we need to round out the whole conversation of looking for a job, is when you get that job, it is okay. It is okay to negotiate the salary. And what I always say is bring two things: bring data and bring respect. If you use a respectful tone in your emails, in your conversation, and you bring data that says, here are local averages, or not just what I want, but this is some information that I found, you've got to do your homework. No one's going to withdraw an offer if you negotiate, again, respectfully. If they do, you don't want that job anyway. So yes, we're excited often to get a job, but really do think, is this the right place for you? Is this where you're going to grow? So one, is it the right position once it's offered? And two, again, negotiating for things that you may not have thought of. It's not just about salary. It's also about support, making sure that there is financial support for you for professional development, for conference travel, so that you can grow, and always be thinking of really your trajectory, what's next, and not just this position this time.
Thank you, Dr. Ordonez, and everyone for your answers. And I think we have one more question before we wrap up. You know, a very interesting conversation in the chat as well, and very important insights from our panelists. And that this last question is a bit loaded, but I'm going to ask a couple of you to to say something because we would like to have about 2 minutes before we end up the time here. But the question is, this person asked, I've had mentors who faced institutional obstacles and inequality hardships in their career. How could mentors and mentees work together to overcome and prevent those issues from continuing to the next generation?
I would say be about your purpose. You can't control anyone else, but you can control yourself. Hate, racism, discrimination, we know it exists. It's been transparent on a platform here politically, but you have to be you, and then you have to continue about your respect and your values because it does exist. Have I faced it? Sure. And it's easy to say and make excuses about it, but you're going to break down those barriers regardless. So keep that in mind, that you have value, and continue to align with people who have values like yours.
Anybody else want to give it a shot? I think we...
Well, here's, I will say, the value of reaching your highest heights. Now in my position, I get to create an environment that is supportive and inclusive for others. And I get that, and for me, you know, I really probably did a bit too much of the blinders along the way, but now I have an opportunity to make sure people feel included, and make sure that there are, you know, kind of an even playing field as best as possible. I ask questions, and they have to listen to me. So all I can say is there is value, and along the way, it's hard when you don't have power, right? Ask good questions, clarifying questions. So if you've ever had a microaggression or macroaggression faced at you, I always say, ask questions like, that's interesting point of view. Why would you, where does that come from? Why would you think that? And the beautiful thing of asking questions, rather than maybe being a bit more direct and accusatory, the person answers the question in their head, and they realize what they've said and done. And it also helps you, because what if they had a perfectly good reason for what they've said or done, but you just weren't privy to all the information? They might say, oh, I see why you're confused. Let me fill you on the back history. So you've saved face at the same time. So I think the hard part is feeling like you're powerless, but you're not. You can ask those questions. You can make changes even in a position of low power, but you have to think carefully about how you do it. I know it's hard, but hang in there, because when you get to a position that you can make change, it is a beautiful thing.
And with that, I want to thank all of our panelists today. If you can, let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. You can unmute your mic, or you can, just show us in the reactions. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. What I want to do at this point is close off. Thank you, Dean Ordonez. Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much, Benoni and Juliana. And we want to show a couple slides before we finish, right? There we go. So just promoting here that take a Triton to work, a spring break, join Triton's Connect to participate in this valuable alumni mentorship and networking opportunity. This is the website where you can go. And I think there's one more slide before this. Yeah, there is also an event that is being promoted as an alumni celebration weekend, May 14th to the 15th. This is a save the date, but the registration was coming soon. So visit alumni.scsu.edu for more information. And there's also some information about investing in educational equity today. And you can get more information on give2.ucsd.edu.
We're all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll see you in the next sessions at 3 o'clock.
See you.
Panels include Advancing Equity, UCSD Student Run Free Clinic, In My Own Words, My Story as a Black Man in America, and Trailblazing Women in STEM. Hope to see you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.